Taika Waititi is a director I first discovered after seeing Thor Ragnarok. Ever since then I checked out the rest of his filmography and he has this quirkiness infused in all his films, which leads us to his latest release, Thor Love and Thunder, which is the second Thor film he has directed. But before I get into my ranking of all 7 Taika Waititi movies, please let me know yours down below. But anyway, let's get into it. I initially found Eagle vs Shark to be quite a charming experience. I just loved how awkward the two leads were, but that soon became quite exhausting and led to quite a miserable time watching it in the end. There are signs of Taika's style in here, but they're not perfected like they have been higher up on this list. My issues with this film all seem to stem from one character, Jared. At first, yeah, he was amusing, but he didn't really change throughout the whole film, so it got really exhausting and quite annoying, to be honest, especially with how he interacted with the other characters. You'd expect maybe an arc by the end of the film, but not even. If anything, he's more of a worse person. So it was just a film which felt very odd, as it didn't really have a story. Well, it had an end goal, but the moments filling in the gaps in between just felt very weird. But I can forgive it as it's Taika's first film and most directors don't hit it out of the park on their first go. Thor Love and Thunder was a frustrating watch because there were so many great things about it, but them merged together just did not work. Overall, it is a romantic comedy and there are very silly moments, but you have that combining with one of the darkest villains we've seen in the MCU and it just feels completely off. Gore himself was fantastic. Christian Bale did a great job, but we didn't get to see too much of him, and not to mention he just felt very out of place in this film. And I say that, but the comedic elements weren't too bad. Yes, there were plenty of moments where they went too far and not all the jokes landed, but there were some great moments, especially the romantic side of things, which worked, but just mixing them all together felt very awkward. I thought this is the best development Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth's characters have had together in this film alone compared to the other films they have been in. I just think Taika Waititi got a bit carried away with going bizarre with the Thor characters at the point where it was just a bit silly. Pass the dutchie on the left hand side. Pass the dutchie on the left hand side. Boy is Taika Waititi's second film he ever made. There's so many improvements made over Eagle vs Shark. Here he doesn't just show that he is a good director, but he also shows that he's a good actor as well. This is the first time where I think he pretty much perfected his style of quirkiness mixed with really emotional moments and an emotional story at the center. Because on one hand, while it can produce tears with the emotion, it can also produce tears with the laughs as well. The comedy is top notch, but it never overshadows the main story. It just supports it and fills in the gaps naturally. While Taika's great at portraying the absent criminal father, the real standout here is from young actor James Rolliston. For someone his age, it's very impressive that he never showed any signs of inconsistencies or dips in quality. He was very strong throughout and not to mention very charismatic. While you can look at this film and say it has great laughs, overall it's a very insightful look into how a returning father can affect its fatherless child and how they'd want to be like them, whilst it may not be the best idea to. After reading the synopsis for The Hunt for the Wilder People, I was bracing for quite an emotional film, and while I did get that, I was very shocked at the amount of times I laughed out loud. Once again, Taika works his magic by weaving in hilarious comedy, but never overshadowing the very strong and emotional story at the center. It takes the familiar concept of two completely different people, sticks them on this wonderful adventure where they slowly open up to each other, combining several genres in the process. You know, you have the drama elements, you have the adventure, as I mentioned, the comedic elements, all of them perfected thanks to the great performances from Sam Neill and Julian Dennison. The humor is so unfiltered that actually feels natural coming from this rebellious teenager, and I just love seeing where these characters both started off individually and in terms of their relationship and where we finish and all the progression they make on this adventure. The Hunt for the Wilder People is a beautiful story and it's very unlucky to miss out on my top 3. Thor Ragnarok works as a standalone film as It feels completely different to the other Thor films, and not to mention it is the best one of the bunch. Completely saved the character from a dull and boring end, and Taika Waititi breathed new life into him, giving us a fun yet emotional ride. I had negatives for Thor Love and Thunder about too much comedy overshadowing the more emotional moments or darker moments. Here, the mix is perfect and it doesn't feel like an awkward tonal shift each time. It just feels naturally integrated into it. The focus was on maintaining solid storytelling, and it does that by constantly keeping it moving and highlighting the importance at the end. Not only was the character improved upon, but the atmosphere was a lot more colourful, fun, and just made for a much better viewing experience than the other previous Thor films. While the success of this may have got him to go a bit over the top with Thor Love and Thunder, there is no doubt that this is one of the finest superhero films out there.
They have no use for your song. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead and out of this world.
What We Do in the Shadows was the first Taika Waititi movie I watched after seeing Thor Ragnarok, as not only did I want to check out Taika's work, but my friend had constantly been recommending this film to me, and I can say that it was a fantastic experience. It's a simple concept which lends itself nicely to a comedy, hence why there's a TV show which has been a huge success, and not to mention even a spin-off show of that. It depicts hilarious situations that the leads get into, both human scenarios and some with a vampire spin to it, with those lead characters mainly being Taika Waititi himself and Jermaine Clement, who also helped direct and write this film. Like with most Taika Waititi movies, the writing is so smooth as all the hilarious interactions feel real, to the point where just casual conversations are just as funny as more of the action-based scenes, and it really hammers home that vampires have been around for ages. It settles that vibe. As it is filmed in a more of a documentary style, there isn't really a clear story to follow, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It's not a criticism, because we just get to see vampires going about their day, and what comes of that is pretty hilarious and great storytelling. Before I watched this film, I never thought I needed to know about the lives of vampires in Wellington, but boy am I glad I found out. There is no question that making a comedy based in World War II from the Nazis' point of view, featuring Hitler as someone's imaginary friend, is a highly controversial topic and could end very badly. And while not everybody responded well to this film, I think the way it was executed really justifies its decisions, its bold decisions, and delivers a fantastic viewing experience, hence why it's my #1 pick. And I know that may sound controversial in itself, but if you have the context of what the message is of this film, plus Taika's religious beliefs, then you can kind of appreciate it more without having to feel a bit guilty. Like I've said countless times in this video, there is some hilarious moments in this film. They may not all land, there are probably funnier films in this list, but the story here is brilliant. Similar to his breakout film Boy, Jojo blindly follows this man who is oblivious to his real actions and portrays him as a much better person than he is. He's never met Hitler, so he doesn't know what he's like in person, so what he imagines him as is this very cool guy, hence why he's like that in this film. I think everyone is exceptional here, to the point where, as I mentioned, if a joke doesn't land, it still had a smile on my face because the characters were just so charismatic, and it was a joy to see them interacting on screen. We obviously have a massive name like Scarlett Johansson in this film, who was fantastic as well, but the real standouts for me were Roman Griffin Davis and Thomasin McKenzie, the younger ones on this cast list, but I thought they held their own extremely well, and not to mention every scene they were together was a very charming one. They had great chemistry, and it just made the film feel a lot more sweeter. You can look at this film without watching and assume it's a very insensitive comedy of a very dark era, and while it does have comedy listed in the genre, first and foremost, it is a drama which tells a very fascinating story from a different point of view, whilst having some very emotional and shocking moments, and if you've seen the film, you know what shocking moment I'm talking about. So that concludes my ranking of all 7 Taika Waititi movies. Please let me know what yours is down below. And while you're down there, if you can like and subscribe as well, that would be really appreciated. Taika Waititi is meant to have a new film out next year called Next Girl Wins, so expect an updated ranking when that eventually comes out. But as for now, thank you so much for watching, it's very much appreciated, and I hope to see you in my next video.